Hi and welcome to my fourth Black Library book review. Today we will review the fourth book that was released with the 2021 Advent e-short subscription. And today's story is The Moon Mines of Sciara Alone. It's a story about the Battle Sisters and was written by Danie Ware. So here is the whole summary that Black Library is proposing to you. The Battle Sisters are crashing on a moon colony, or a mining moon colony. And once they land, they find a dark enemy lurking in the deep of the mines. That's how the description goes. You will see that description doesn't fit my summary of the book. So here is my version of the summary. The ecclesiastic ship, or the Battle Sisters ship, had a problem and is crashing on a planet without any atmosphere. So the Battle Sisters and the crew, a few of them were able to jump inside of some shuttles and actually escape the ship. So basically the book starts with the Battle Sister looking through the window and seeing the ship crashing. So they're not crashing on the moon, on the moon mine, or on the colony. They request some help to land on the moon, a satellite nearby. And from there, they ask for supplies, but they feel something is off. The colonists are actually extremely friendly, but something is odd about it. This is my summary. This is how, without any spoilers, I don't want to go further than that. It is well written. It's a simple type of writing. So it's not like Eaters of Dreams where there's a lot of description in every line. This one is more like a Marvel comic. You just got a bit of description of what's around. You got really small talk between the people, some prayers from the Battle Sisters. It's not really a groundbreaking type of lore. So it's a simple read. It's not a bad type of writing. I'm not saying that Danie Ware she's not a good writer. I'm saying there's different type of writing. Some people love complicated books. Other people love stories that are more simple. Not brain dead, but just a ride along type of book. This one is like that. You won't hurt your head trying to understand this short story. So this is not bad. But for an Advent 2021, for e-short, where the purpose of those short stories usually is to give you a bite-sized lore to attract you to start reading about the subject. So this one's the Battle Sisters. So you would expect by reading this book, you would get a satisfaction or an urge, a thirst to satisfy your urge to read about the Battle Sisters and buy the other books. So here, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a polarized, in a way, fan base about this book. Well, not even fan base, really polarized, the fan versus the haters. And here is why I believe so. So it's really well written. It's a good, simple story. Danie Ware makes sure that you know exactly what the heroes know. So every time the hero is like, something's odd about this, something's off about those people, you're thinking the same. Something's off about those people. And when she's not showing you what the hero is seeing that makes you doubt, it's just the hero having a gut feeling that's like, something's just wrong. And just a hero thinking it, you still intake it as a reader. So this is a nice type of writing. So usually everybody's going to be happy with this. Some other people will say, well, I would prefer to see instead of just a hero telling me what she's thinking. But the same thing's an e-short. So I accept that. For an e-short, it's a perfect flow. Honestly, not a lot of description, perfect flow. It goes really well. The problems comes with the ending. So there's 18 pages, and it took me about 30 minutes to read it. So you can see how many less details there is compared to the other style of writing, like Eaters of Dreams. So in the first 14 pages, I had that vibe, something's wrong. And, we're in 40K, so gene stealers, even the Tau, they're too nice. The people in this colony are just way too nice. Something's off. So the Battle Sister is going to have a big battle. Like, you kind of anticipating that. Win 40K, right? And the ending comes in at about page 14, 15. It's the climax. And everything just crashed. For me, anyways. I saw some fan making reviews, like little description, and they love it and it was perfect and it was excellent. I do not believe this should be given 5-star. When I was reading it, I was about to give it a 7 out of 10. 7 or 8. 7 or 8, yeah. Just because, since there's not a lot of description, it's not a good intro to the Battle Sisters, so it wasn't really worth it. But when I reached the ending, and there is nothing to make you care about the fighting. There is no intensity, there's just nothing. And you feel there's things that are way off, that doesn't make sense with what the writer is trying to present you. It dropped to a 4 out of 10. To a point where I say, it's not even worth buying. You should just buy a book from the Battle Sister for the price, instead of wasting $5 Canadian dollars onto that chapter. And without giving you any spoilers, I should come up with a version of something that would help you to understand what I mean by the ending doesn't make sense. Okay, I got it. Let's say you're reading a book about me dying of starvation. So I'm alone, no water, it's been weeks, I didn't eat. I've been scrambling to survive. I barely have enough energy to stand up. And when there's just a few hours left to me, my neighbor shows up, brings me a big piece of bread with butter, and he feeds me and he saves my life. And I'm super happy about it. I'm super pumped and I thank him so much. And all of a sudden he takes a knife and tries to stab me. There's a skirmish. I survive. And I'm like, what happened? And just a random person shows up and is like, yeah, he wanted to kill you from the beginning. He never loved you, so he wanted to kill you. As a reader, the first thing that comes to mind is, why did you save him? Why did you feed him if you wanted him to die? A good writer would have said that the neighbor was sitting on a chair and enjoying the whole thing, right? Just happy. Or he would have showed up without a bread, just a knife, and take care of it. He's weak. Why did you save him if the purpose is to kill him? Then we can go on all kind of direction and say, well, maybe the neighbor has a big moral and he doesn't want to kill somebody that is weak. But there's nothing that leads you to that belief. So you're like, but at the same time he wants to kill his neighbor that is dying? Where's the moral in that? And would you really just feed him and try to kill him right away if you got a moral of having to fight somebody that's strong enough to fight? Wouldn't that take more than a few days to make him back in shape? So you get those weird rush endings that doesn't match. And sadly, this short story has that problem at the end. The whole thing makes sense, it makes sense, it makes sense, and all of a sudden you're like, what? Why? Why did you do X or Y? Anyway, I won't go further than that because I'm going to start spoiling the story. So like I said, 18 pages, took me about 30 minutes to read it. The ending didn't really connect with me, so I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. If you really love the Battle Sisters, and you're really somebody that knows them and knows the story about, I think her name is Augusta. The Battle Sister is Augusta. Can't remember her name. If you're really into that, and you really want that little piece of lore, yeah, buy it. Buy it, because you want to know the full story about her. But if you don't know the Battle Sisters, or if you know the Battle Sisters but you don't care about Augusta, skip it. just skip it. Just use that $5 to buy another book from the Battle Sister that got a really good rating, and just don't invest into that one. And this book for me is a dangerous book because Road Rage brings you to think about the orcs. The Wolf and the Rat, even though it's a niche, and really, I really criticized The Wolf and the Rat, and now I'm rethinking about maybe raising the score a bit. Because The Wolf and the Rat really gives you a good story and a good ending. And if somebody doesn't know about Curse City, that could be something that brings you to read Curse City. So it's doing its job again. Eater of Dreams is bringing you a really specific lore within the Horus Heresy. So even if you're a fan of the Horus Heresy, reading this is interesting. And if you don't know about the Horus Heresy, reading it brings you to the interest of starting to read them. But this one doesn't give you anything. It doesn't introduce you to the Battle Sisters. The only thing that they say in the story, and it's not really a spoiler, they pray a lot while they're walking, and they want to go to a chapel. That's it. That's what we know about the Battle Sisters. Some people will say, well, that's exactly what they are. But we don't see why they exist. There is one time somebody said, purge. But the context doesn't really make sense. So because right here in this colony, we're not sure if they're friendly or not, because that's what the writer is trying to present us. And that's the feeling it brings us, that I give actually flowers to Danie Ware about, actually cause a problem here, because since we don't know how people usually interact with the Battle Sisters, we're not sure what they are. So are the people in front of them right now actually interacting with them as they usually do? Or should they usually be more scared of them? And the Battle Sisters always seems on edge and not too sure. And because they're not too sure and on edge, they don't really say this is how they should react. They're just like, they're acting weird. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. It's really subtle little acting from the characters that makes a big difference. And because we don't know how people are supposed to interact with them, it's hard to know what they are. So it's not a good book for an introduction to the Battle Sisters. Maybe to Augusta, because you want to know more about Augusta herself. But at the same time, Augusta doesn't feel like a hero. She just feels like a random grunt that we're following. So now I'm really going out there. But if you read Hell's Reach, and there is Endridge, or Endry, I'm just gonna say Endry. I think a lot of people call him Endry. So you got Endry, it's an infantryman. It's just an infantry among all the others, but Hendry got a really specific accent. He's always kind of doing dark humor. He's funny, he's always planning ahead, and he's really, really, really smart for an infantryman. So he doesn't look that smart, but he's actually really skilled. That makes Endry really interesting in Hell's Reach, to a point where the Reclusi arc feels like a secondary character at some point. You're like, I want to know more about Endry. But in this one, Augusta feels exactly the same as her sisters. Battle Sisters, right? So she just feel among the whole thing. Is she reckless? Maybe, but it's hard to tell because the knee's short. So yeah, this one feels a bit more hollow. I think it's gonna leave your throat a bit dry. And if you're a big reader, somebody that loves reading a lot of books, and you saw many different of ending and stories and twists, this one will not please you. And I could see people giving it 1 star, 2 stars, just because of the ending and the way the whole thing is built up to nothing. It's such a big downer that you're like, I don't want to read about the Battle Sisters. Other people will say 5 star because it's the first time, and They kind of like the ecclesiastic style of things. So this one's going to be really polarized. For me, it is a good story, a bad ending, and because of it, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10, and it's not a good introduction to anything. Do I believe that Danie Ware is not a good writer? Contrary. I believe Danie Ware is actually a really good writer. She's actually a good writer. I just believe maybe that E-Short was a bit too fast, or something happened in between, or shit happens. Sometimes you write something, you think everything was good, then you rethink about it after it's released, and you're like, oh, did I really do this? I can't believe I did that. It happens. It's not personal, it's not nothing like that. And honestly, I just hope people doesn't, like, even if I do critics, I just hope people are actually kind enough to understand that it doesn't make a bad writer just because there is one story where there's something that lacks. That's not how it works. Life is a nuance, right? Eaters of Dream is the perfect proof of that. And if you read a lot of books, you'll understand that criticizing doesn't mean I'm right. It just means that's how I perceived it. That's it. That's all. So just because of the way that Danie Ware present that flow of idea in a simple fashion, I believe if you're somebody that loves action stories, not too complicated, I would say start reading her books. It feels more like a Marvel movie. Some people are going to crash at me there. But yeah, the Marvel movie are really simple. It's easy to follow. There's a lot of characters later on, of course, but as such, it's just the hero doing the hero's journey. There's no much of a... It's a simplified style of writing. Lately, Marvels are stepping up the game, so my reference is already getting out of date. But yeah, I feel that's good enough for you to understand what I mean by the critic of this book. So on this, for $5, I don't think it's worth it. I would say wait for it. If you're really a fan of Augusta from the Battle Sister, yes, it could be worth paying the price. But right now, the Moonbinds of Sciara alone should be the second free book that comes in the advance. So that means the 8 other books needs to be really on par to fit for the price anyways of $50 Canadian. So anyways, on this, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this video was a bit longer than the others. It's because when I criticize really severely a book, or I go a bit more harsh on the rating, I prefer really to give the reasoning behind my rating. I don't believe in just saying I didn't like it too. I prefer to go in details, and you got an example. So anyways, if you read it, let me know. Let me know in the details in the description or the comments anyways. If you like the story, if yes, why? Actually, I'm interested. I'm interested to know how other people can actually perceive this book. Maybe sometimes I'm biased from my experience with certain type of writing. And that is true. That's how writers are influenced in writing, and authors, and movie creators, right? Producers and directors. So yeah. So anyways, on this, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope to see you around.